The story opens with an introduction to Travis, who was a bit of a goofball and a total rookie. He was a man working for a secure transport company, tasked with picking up cash from a local bank. It was a routine job, but it took a wild turn when he laid eyes on an exotic and stunning woman named Zoe. Travis was completely starstruck, but in his awkwardness, he suspected she was a robber and instinctively pulled his gun.
Throw your hands up!
What?
First Atlantic Bank. First Atlantic Bank! Show your head! I don't care! Lay down!
The whole bank went into a panic, and a tense standoff ensued over a complete misunderstanding. Zoe, with a calm demeanor, managed to de-escalate the situation, revealing she was only trying to give him a piece of paper. It was a scrap with her phone number on it, giving him the green light for a guaranteed good time, which he stupidly ruined. Travis was a total mess, completely embarrassed by his own blunders. That evening, wanting to make up for his ridiculous behavior, Travis took Zoe out for dinner. It was his first real date, and he was clearly flustered and awkward. But Zoe was a lot more forward. She was a total firecracker, and she kept teasing him, telling him he couldn't leave until he was in her bedroom, a line that left him speechless. The next day, we meet Russell, a seasoned and serious armored truck driver who worked for the same company as Travis. That day was his 25th wedding anniversary with his wife, Natalie, and he had promised her he'd be home early. He had planned a surprise act, deliberately took his wife's ring, and made it like it had gone missing, played hero by returning it, and claimed he had found it. He couldn't wait to surprise her. However, their boss, a man named Clark, had a different plan. Russell was given a new, unexpected assignment, a 9-hour drive to a remote location. His annoyance quickly turned to rage when he found out his partner for the trip was Travis, a man Clark called a total pest. Russell didn't want any trouble, but he was stuck with the one person who was a magnet for it. He told Travis to get in the truck and not to mess this up, as he couldn't afford to be late for Natalie. Travis, ever the optimist, tried to calm Russell down, telling him he was an excellent driver who even passed the test to be a cop. But Russell knew it all, gave him a cold look and an ultimate crushing question, telling him why he ended up as a truck driver if he was good enough for a cop. Travis sheepishly admitted he only passed the driving test and failed everything else. Travis just wouldn't stop talking, and Clark, over the radio, told them to get a move on before he fired them both. The story takes a sharp turn, introducing two new players, Banner and Miguel, two career criminals who looked ready for a fight. They were on the verge of going at it, but shockingly, Zoe showed up, commanded respect, and shut them down in a heartbeat. It was a total firestorm. She informed Banner that their previous partner was dead and that Miguel was the new man on the job. Zoe, with a plan, took charge and laid out the target, a heavily armored truck. She was all business, telling them that they had to be professional and that they only had 1 hour before the truck would pass through. It was this moment that revealed Zoe's true colors. She was a robber, and she got close to Travis, knowing he was an easy target for intel about the truck and the money. Meanwhile, inside the truck, Russell and Travis were already well on their way, having successfully completed their pickup. They entered a dead zone in their journey, a place with no signal, and Travis started to open up to Russell, telling him how impressed he was to be working with a respected senior. But their quiet moment was shattered by a call from Clark, who was absolutely furious. He told Travis the bank had canceled its contract because of his little stunt, pulling a gun at Zoe in front of the bank customer the other day. Clark went on to call Travis a loser and a failure for not being able to make it as a cop. Travis was so hurt he started to cry, and Russell, all about getting the job done, told him to suck it up and drive. Travis confessed that his whole family, his dad, his uncle, and his aunt, were all cops, and he was the one who was a total failure. Just as Travis was trying to hold it together, Russell noticed a car that was tailing them. They were in a total mess. The robbers, with Zoe in the lead, were a lot more dangerous than they had anticipated. Russell tried to call for help, but there was no signal. The robbers unleashed a total curveball, firing tear gas at the truck. But Russell was a man who had seen it all, and he knew how to react. Travis, with a lot of anger after Clark brought about his failed attempt at the cop test, started ramming the robbers' car, and it was a total firestorm. They managed to get away for a moment, and Russell opened the back door, letting the gas out. It was a close call, and for a moment, they thought they were in the clear. Shortly after, they couldn't see the attackers and felt relieved. Russell asked Travis to floor it to make their way to the area with signals so they could signal for backup. And this is when Travis showed his driving skills. He also shocked Russell by using his math skills, calculating how long they would take until reaching that point. A few moments later, they felt the truck lurch to the side. One of the robbers had shot out their front tire. Russell was livid and told Travis to get out and fix it. Travis looked at his watch and told Russell they only had 4 minutes before the robbers would be back. Russell quickly made his move. Suddenly, they saw a car coming and told Travis to flag it down and call for their help. But Travis, being a total doofus, just looked confused. The car drove right past them, leaving them to their own devices. Before they could even catch their breath, the robbers returned, and the chase was on again. Russell sensed Travis's reckless move, ordered Travis to turn around before they had a head-on collision. But Travis, a man with a wild streak, ignored and floored it, a move that was a total disaster, but not for them. His strategy worked. The robbers avoided, giving Travis and Russell a window for escape. Unfortunately, his strategy only brought them so far. Travis's next maneuver was read by Zoe and her gang, and the armored truck was finally surrounded. The robbers began their assault trying to open the back of the truck, but Travis handled the situation like a pro. He started swerving the truck, causing one of the robbers who hung at the back to lose his footing and fall off. It was a chaotic firestorm. The robber, in a desperate move, started firing at the truck, and Russell returned fire. But in a moment of utter despair, his gun fell. He yelled at Travis for a weapon, but Travis handed him a pepper spray instead. In a last-ditch effort, Russell started throwing money at the robbers, hoping they would stop. But the robbers, not ready to give up, just kept going. Russell then realized that some of the money was rigged with die packs. Without hesitation, he started throwing the die pack money at them. It was a total explosion of blue, and the robbers, who were blinded by the die, lost control of their vehicles and crashed. But in a total curveball, a robber managed to get inside the truck, and Russell and the robber got into a total brawl. Travis tried to call Clark for help, but the signal was bad, and he couldn't hear anything on the call. He was in awe of Russell's fighting skills, and he knew that Russell was a man who was a force to be reckoned with. But the robbers were still coming, and in a moment of pure genius, Russell grabbed a bag of coins and threw them at the robbers, a move that was a total game changer. The robbers, beaten and broken, finally gave up, and Russell and Travis continued on their way. They were in a state of pure bliss, thinking they were in the clear, but without their knowledge, Zoe was hiding in the back of the truck. She was not going to let them get away, and she made her point pretty clear. She took them to a warehouse, and as she took off her helmet, Travis's heart sank. He realized she had played him the whole time. Zoe immediately searched Russell and took his wedding ring. She told him she only needed the truck, a move that was a total slap in the face. She was not going to stop until she got what she wanted. She needed that for her more grand robbery plan, and even more shocking, she wanted them to be her partner. Meanwhile, in a twisted turn of events, the fate of Banner and Miguel was revealed. Their car had been totaled in the crash, but they weren't gone for good. They felt Zoe had betrayed them and wanted to get their own back on her. Just as Zoe, Russell, and Travis were getting ready for their next move, Russell's phone rang. It was his wife, Natalie, and she was in a real state. She asked him where he was and why he was ignoring her message. She told her that she had lost her ring. Russell kept his cool, telling her he was still on the clock because Clark had given him extra work. He didn't want her to worry, even though he was in a hell of a situation. Not long after, they arrived at a garage owned by Zoe's friend, a mechanic named Chop Shop. Zoe told Chop Shop that Banner and Miguel had died, and that she needed him to fix the armored truck for her next move. A few moments later, they all went to a cafe for a bite. Russell and Travis were in a daze, unable to believe they had been taken hostage by a woman they had just met. But the situation got even more chilling when Zoe showed Russell a video of her goons watching Natalie. She was a stone-cold savage, and she made it clear she would not hesitate to harm Natalie if Russell didn't play along. Zoe started eating her breakfast with gusto, while Russell and Travis just sat in stunned silence. She laid out her plan. They would pretend to be security guards for the money to be transferred and enter a casino at exactly 3:01 a.m. to steal the cash there. Zoe explained that they had to be on time because the real guards would be there right after them. The cash was a staggering $60 million, a fortune beyond belief. She told them not to worry because they had an inside man. But Russell was not convinced. He told her it was a suicide mission and they were going to get shot. Zoe just smiled and told him that as long as they followed her orders, they would be fine. Not long after, Zoe tied Russell with a zip tie and took Travis to the bathroom. Travis, who was goofy and naive, was excited, thinking he was going to get lucky again. But Zoe just wanted to swap clothes. They returned to the table only to find that Russell was gone. Zoe was panicking, but just as she and Travis were about to leave, Russell appeared, a gun in his hand. He told Travis to take the gun and shoot Zoe. But in a shocking betrayal, Travis gave the gun back to Zoe. Russell flew into a rage and started hitting Travis.
Give me the gun.
What are you doing? Yes! No, I'm not! Yes, you are!
You're the inside man? Oh,
Trying to... Oh! Get on it!
Zoe looked at Russell and said that Travis wasn't an idiot. He had simply been outplayed by her genius. A moment later, they were back on the road in a modified vehicle, a dead ringer for the armored truck supposed to deliver the money from the casino. Russell was in the driver's seat, seething over the fact that Travis had been played by Zoe. Meanwhile, at Chop Shop's garage, a grim scene was unfolding. Banner and Miguel, who had survived the crash, came looking for revenge. They confronted Chop Shop, who was stunned to see them alive, asking about Zoe's whereabouts. When he refused to give up Zoe's location, Banner didn't hesitate. He finished Chop Shop off. Back in the truck, Zoe bound Travis with zip ties, afraid his goofiness would bring her bad luck for the mission. He was a mess, heartbroken that the woman he had feelings for was a criminal. But Zoe told him they could still run away together after the heist. Russell told Travis not to fall for her tricks. In a moment of vulnerability, Zoe revealed her true motive. Years ago, her father, a security guard at that very casino, had sacrificed his life to save his co-workers by locking himself in a vault that had no oxygen. But instead of being hailed as a hero, he was blamed for the entire disaster. Zoe's mission was to clear his name and take every cent as a way of getting revenge. Not long after, as Zoe, Russell, and Travis were waiting in the truck, they were shocked by Natalie, mad as ever, banging on their window. She tracked Russell with the Find My Phone app, and she made it clear she wasn't having anything her husband was about to say, suspecting he was doing some shady business with another woman in the back, Zoe. He forced her way inside the truck and demanded an explanation. Cornered, Russell revealed the truth. He had been held hostage by Zoe. After a bit of a situation with Natalie, which they managed to handle, they made their way inside the casino and were a few minutes early, which made the security guard suspicious. But Zoe's inside man, the security staff, smoothed things over, and they got into the basement. Zoe and Russell headed for the vault, but Zoe's insider looked at Zoe, bewildered. He asked her why she brought others, especially since they were about to pull off a much bigger heist. They then got to the vault, but they were stopped in their tracks by a group of mobsters who were taking photos with a bunch of women on a pile of money. Thinking fast, Zoe caused a diversion, convincing the mobster to pick a fight with a rival. The mobster and his crew left in fury, ready for a brawl, and that gave Zoe the chance to get the money. Just as they were about to grab the cash, the casino manager showed up and recognized Zoe. He told her that her father was a hero and apologized for the way the casino had treated him. They stayed on the plan. They put the money in the truck with the help of guards from the casino, but because Natalie and Travis were inside the truck, they took over the job so the guards wouldn't see what was inside the truck. They were about to go back outside when the real armored truck arrived. Russell floored it and took off, hearing the wail of sirens behind him. But it was just a patrol car, and they made it out safely. Moments later, they arrived at an old warehouse where Zoe had a getaway car stashed away. But just as they thought they were in the clear, Banner and Miguel, the two crooks they thought were gone for good, appeared out of nowhere and hit the truck from the side. Miguel then doused the place in gasoline, ready to light them all up. On the other hand, Banner punched Zoe, then sarcastically thanked her for doing the hard work so he could grab the money. In a gut punch moment, he grabbed Russell's wedding ring off Zoe. Russell was mortified, knowing that the surprise he had planned for Natalie was now a source of her anger. Knew that she would think he had given another woman a ring on their anniversary. Russell, in a big brain move, yelled at Travis to reverse the armored truck into Banner and Miguel, a move that was a real shot in the dark. The crash sent the two flying, but it only made Banner angrier. He was out for revenge, took a gun, and began firing. Zoe didn't take a back seat, though. She attacked Banner and snagged a gun. A wild gunfight broke out, and in the chaos, Banner shot Miguel, who was standing right in his path. It was a cold-blooded move. Zoe saw her chance and fired at Banner, but she only wounded him, choosing to flee rather than finish him off. Banner, seeing his chance, kidnapped Natalie and opened fire on Russell. The shots hit Russell square in the chest, but he was protected by a bulletproof vest. The chase was on. Zoe and Banner were in a furious pursuit over the money, which was still in the trunk of the car Zoe drove. Russell and Travis followed them with the armored truck, but they were also being chased by the cops. Travis floored it and rammed hard into Banner's car, but Russell told him to keep it easy, afraid his wife, who was also in that car, was harmed. In the middle of the chase, Travis's phone rang. It was Clark, who was absolutely furious. He couldn't believe they hadn't returned to the office and that a client was complaining. He told them there was a big chase on the highway on the news, but then realized that they were the ones who had pulled off the heist, and he was not happy. Banner started firing again, and the police cars got caught in the crossfire. The whole chase turned into a demolition derby. Banner, Zoe, Travis, and Russell were now in a chase that led them to an airport. The chase got even more intense when Travis's car was shot by Banner and went up in flames. They were in a total nightmare, refusing to give up to save their girls, and with a crazy stunt, they managed to jump out of their burning car just in time, landing with a huge thud on the hood of Zoe's car. Russell yelled at Zoe to hit the gas, pushing her to drive faster to get to Natalie, even as a terrified Travis was hanging on for dear life and begging her to slow down. They were now face to face with Banner, who was armed and ready to finish the job. The three of them were trapped with no weapons and nowhere to run. It seemed like the end of the line. But in a moment of pure genius, Natalie had a different idea. She broke free and delivered 2 solid punches to Banner, knocking him out cold. Russell was relieved that his wife was safe and everyone was in the clear. He told Zoe and Travis to give them some space so he could have a moment with Natalie. After all the chaos died down, Zoe gave Travis a final kiss goodbye and took off with the money. Russell, who had been in a daze, suddenly remembered the ring that Banner had taken. He quickly retrieved it and gave it back to Natalie. He apologized for not being able to buy her a new one, but told her he was a hero for finding it, although it was his plan to make it like she had lost it and played hero for finding it. Not long after, the cops arrived and started questioning them. Russell gave Travis a wink and told the cops that Travis was the hero who took out the robbers. Despite all his frustration with Travis, he didn't want him to go to jail for a crime they were forced to commit. 6 months later, Travis had become a police officer, a dream he had finally realized. He called Zoe and told her the good news. On the other hand, Russell, now retired, opened a bed and breakfast with Natalie. He was living the dream, having coffee with his wife every morning and not having to worry about an early start to his day. One morning, Russell noticed a package on his doorstep. He opened it, and it was filled with cash and a note from Zoe that said, "Happy grand opening."